back. Let me make sure I'm in the mic. Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of the Everybody Eats Show. Yo, today is I say special episode almost every episode, but this one is truly a special episode. This is the first live in-person episode in New York. First one that we've done. The ones that we did previously in New York, it was virtual, so now we're in person, and we have a really special guest for you guys. Yo, my good friend, Mr. Rajs Singh. Thank you very much.
Thank you for having me on. It's an honor to be here
for sure.
On this special day too.
For sure. On this rainy Saturday morning, right? But we make it happen no matter what. We're gonna make it happen. So before we get started, make sure you're following us on all platforms. So we updated our tags, our @, right? So it's @Everybody Eats Show on everywhere, all right, except Twitter, which is EBE_show. So on Instagram, Everybody Eats Show. On Facebook, Everybody Eats Show. On YouTube, Everybody Eats Show. On Twitter, EBE_show. So make sure it's TikTok, Everybody Eats Show on TikTok. All right, so make sure you're up to date on all of that good stuff, right? That's one. Two, if you haven't listened to our wholesale webinar, make sure that you get to that. It is a free webinar teaching you guys how to break into the real estate game. No down payments necessary, no deposits, no credit. You don't have to get a license. You don't have to do any of that stuff. We're teaching you guys how to wholesale properties for free with our boy, Randy Cadley, who's been a former guest. He broke it down completely, A to Z, beginning to end, how to get your first wholesale deal. It's completely free. So just click the link in our bio. Enter your email address. It goes directly to your email. You have access to the video, audio, and PowerPoint guide. So what more could you ask for? All right. And we're going to have more webinars for you guys coming out this summer into the fall. We have a bunch of stuff coming out. So this is the first of many. So enjoy. That's the prelude, right?
Yeah.
So, right? Taking care of the household items, right? And then, now, Mr. Rajs Singh, right? Yo.
Wait. Start this off. I have a gift. I brought a gift for the show.
Much appreciated.
For both of you. This is the only wrapping paper I had.
Happy birthday.
So happy birthday. Happy birthday.
Appreciate it.
Yes.
Open it now?
Yeah, of course.
Open it now? All right. Look at you guys. Come bearing gifts. Much appreciated.
I had to. It's an honor to be here. I couldn't come empty-handed.
Thank you. So for you audio listeners, we have a nice wrapping paper and a nice gift over here. You video guys, you can see here.
Yes,
right. It's like, ooh. Oh, you did not. You did not.
Open it up.
Did not. Oh my goodness.
No way.
I took a quote from one of your posts.
I sleep on my back, my brother sleep on his side, and the world sleeps on the everybody. I love it. Yo, thank you very much, man. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness.
I figured it's perfect for the Everybody Eats show. So it's something that doubles as a cutting board. You got all your serving materials here.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. Much love.
Yeah, and you can cover the people that don't sponsor you with it
Sure,
if you want.
Sure. I love that. I love that. Oh my. Let's make sure. Nah, for sure. This becomes part of the team. All right, that we can make that. So for those, that's a little backwards.
I think it is backwards.
Whatever.
I didn't
That's
think
a little
that.
backwards. Completely backwards.
Yeah, that's good.
Whatever. You
said
can,
it.
we'll figure it out.
Sorry, get the point.
Yeah, you got the point. You got the point. So if you guys listen on audio, you can't see this, but this beautiful gift for you guys on YouTube, it says, I sleep on my back, my brother sleeps on his side, and the world sleeps on the everybody eats show. Nah, man, that's really touching. I really
I had to
appreciate
come
that.
with something. I couldn't come empty-handed.
I appreciate that. I appreciate that for real. So this actually, this means a lot. This means a lot. So for those, I like to tell the people how I met our guest. So this goes back, I don't even know what year. Maybe this is 2004 or 5.
Like third grade.
Third grade, right? Miss Robbins Jean.
Yep.
Miss Robbins Jean's class in Howell Road School. Shout out to Howell, right? Shout out to Valley Stream District 13, all that good stuff. Howell Owls, right? So Raj and I met literally in third grade, Miss Robbins Jean's class. And yo, it's we've been friends ever since, honestly.
Yeah.
Elementary school, junior high, high school, college, we kept in touch. Through the music phase when you're living in Manhattan, all that good stuff, So it's been a journey.
For real though.
I love seeing you grow as an individual, developing and all that. So we found a time where we were both in New York at the same time. Like, yo, we got to make it happen. And we did.
I feel like it all started, it's funny too, because we always talk about similar stuff that you talk about on the podcast every time we look at stuff. And I realized it all started with the school 5. Do you remember that? We had to make an invention in like 4th grade or something, and we're like, we have to make this thing called school 5. It's a pencil, it's a scissor, it's an eraser, all in one. You're gonna sell this to everybody.
I remember that. Yeah. I remember that, yo. Yo, that's crazy.
I know, isn't that crazy?
Yeah, that's some throwback joint. I forgot until you just mentioned it, yo.
I remember we wrote like a jingle for it too and everything.
Yeah, that's crazy. That's crazy. Yo, so much has happened. So much has happened. But yo, let's get into today's episode. So today's episode, it's gonna be a conversation, right? So we're gonna be covering a couple of different things. I haven't seen Raj, or we haven't seen Raj rather, probably since COVID, sometime college, undergrad.
I went over Raj's house probably like 21 summer. I remember
it was for the graduation party.
And the graduation party. Yeah.
So this is probably 17, 18, 19. Yeah. It's been a couple years, right? So we're like, yo, we're gonna catch up on today's episode. I know we got much to talk about. One of the smartest people I met, one of the most creative people I met.
I'm just trying to be like
one
you
of
guys.
the
What are you
most
even talking about?
I'm trying to be like
everybody
you.
each podcast to be like you guys.
I'm trying to be like you. What are you talking about, right? Yo, honestly, no cap. Raj is one of the most talented people I've ever met. Musically, business, creativity, like honestly, for real. So
he wears a lot of hats.
Yeah, 100%, right? And he wears them well, right? So
No, I see.
No, I
got it. Got your elbow? All right, so hurry up, Ian, because we got to start this conversation. All right. Yeah, you gonna sneeze. Yeah, it's raining outside. You gonna sneeze in your elbow.
I got my shirt.
Okay, bet. But yeah, we got a lot to talk about. So how about you? All right, so let me start a little bit, right? So again, we haven't seen Raj in a little bit. You didn't hurry up with the thing. So we haven't seen Raj in a couple years. We did undergrad at St. John's, right?
2 years.
2 years at St. John's, 2 years at Brook, right? 2 years at Brook, right? So that was not too far. Eden and I went to Queens College. So one St. John's is right by Queens College, and then Brook is part of that CUNY system. Yeah. So we were all in New York. After that, you went to go take your talents to Paris, right? You went to go take your talents to Paris. So I want you to kind of talk about the undergrad to college, undergrad to graduate school transition, right? Like why St. John's, why St. John's, why Baruch, and then why Paris, and learning that French. So if you could break that down, because we have a lot of people in that 18 to 35 group, in our audience, young adults that may be in college, getting out of college, maybe, they're thinking about graduate school, thinking about where they want to live. Yeah. And you literally went across the world, across the Atlantic. So talk about the mindset, why you did that, and give some more insight on that.
I'm going to give you the abridged up until we get to the Paris part.
Yeah.
So St. John's was nice. They had a new business school. I was excited to go to university. They gave me money to go there. It wasn't that expensive. I learned a lot. I learned that location is really important, because I would be interviewing for jobs and interviewing for internships, and everything would go so well. And then it came down to the point where it's like, okay, when can you come in? And it's like, okay, I could leave from St. John's, I could take the bus to the train and get there in like an hour and a half. And it's like, oh, we can't really work with that. Or I could drive and I'm gonna have to find a park that'll take an hour and a half on its own. And it's like, oh, our schedule can work with that. You're coming from school, you need to work at full time or something like that. So I was like, all right, location is really important if I'm trying to do things. And Brook was like the perfect spot. It's affordable. The CUNY system is great. Obviously, like everyone has problems with the administration, but the school is good.
Yeah, overall,
yeah, it's a great school. The education is great. The people you meet are great. It's really diverse. It's people you can relate to too. It's, even though they do have a lot of international students, the majority of the people are from this city and stuff. So it's like, it was a really nice community. I already had a few friends there. It was like super easy to integrate in my stuff, and it was perfect. I was able to get multiple internships. I could just walk through after school. something like that. Like all of that worked perfectly. And when I was there, I was studying French was my official minor, just from a love for the language. Remember when we used to bump strumming in the car all the time? It started in like 2013. We were trying to learn French, so I just had to take it seriously. And like, even if I don't do anything with it, adding a language to my repertoire is like that's one that I wanted to learn. Studied marketing and international business, and meeting all the international professors there that taught those courses, I was like, damn, seems like a very important thing to have that in your skill set if you have the opportunity. And I was looking through the study abroad programs they had, and they were like a semester. It's cool for the experience, but it's not like worth anything in terms of like, let's say I want to go get a job or start a company or freelance or something. So I did a 3-week to 4-week program to see if it was really something I wanted to do at secondary education. Just like a graduate school there.
Okay.
In Paris.
Okay.
And it was a really great experience, and it kind of like convinced me that it's the way to go, because I knew I wanted to go to grad school before I like really get into the workforce or start my own thing. And I was like, I could go to school here and pay minimum what, like $30K at CUNY, because the graduate programs are a little bit more expensive. Or I can do an international program, get international experience, work for like less than half the price. Because first thing, their public schools there are completely free. You don't have to pay.
You're talking about Europe,
And their private schools there are like relatively less expensive because of the fact that their public schools are free and they're more affordable. So I'm like living and going to school there and getting benefits in terms of like my salary from work and benefits the students get there. I'm paying an exponential amount less than I would just go to school here. So I'm like that, plus being able to work internationally, being able to experience, being able to learn, meet new people, get these degrees that I'm trying to get. It's like, it just seemed like the perfect opportunity. And I like worked hard to do it. I took the GMAT, I learned French, I had my application, essays, all that stuff that you would apply to school, and it worked out. I had a choice between a few schools, and I chose one. Again, a big part of it was the location. Like, it was the only one that was 100% in Paris, where most of the opportunities are, and most of the things that I'm trying to do are. And it worked out. Like, everything went as much as planned as possible. Just because it was something I was very focused on. As much as I'm excited to be there, I think next year I'm very excited to go back home too. I think 3 years there was like the perfect amount. I got the work experience where I got to work in industries that I wanted to. Like, the fashion industry was something that I really wanted to do when I got there, and I got to spend 6 months with a company there and really have like a really intense program there that hopefully will open doors for me in the future. And I got to work in technology, specifically the video game industry, and those were like three big industries: so fashion, video games, or any new technology industry. And it was like, now I feel like I have a better view of what I'm trying to do because of that, even though I still have no idea what I'm trying to do. Like, anything can come up, but it was like, I'm happy with the way it went, and I 100% encourage anyone who can do it to try to do it. And like, obviously, it's coming from a very privileged standpoint to say, oh, go abroad. But it's more like, if you have the opportunity, if it's within reach, take it. It's just crazy too, because I know you wanted to get into like the cultural differences too, but just a sneak peek before we go deeper into that conversation, it's like pretty much everyone in Europe, I would say, if you're in school, gets that opportunity to go abroad somehow. And it's very encouraged there. Like, either taking an internship abroad, going a semester abroad, doing your entire university abroad. It's very encouraged, it's very affordable, and there's so many programs to do it through, which I feel like is something we don't see in the States as much, unless you go to a really expensive private school, or if like it's something that your parents had done and they encourage you to do it. It's like not really thrown in our face as much as it is there. So it's like really cool to see. It's cool, at the same time it sucks that we don't have that same thing, but it's interesting to see like so many kids with so much experience there that you wouldn't expect to speak minimum like 2 to 3 languages by the time they're like 21 and 22, just because they've had all these opportunities. It's such a different view of the world too that they have just because they're exposed to so many different cultures. Rather than like obviously America and New York specifically is very diverse, but it's still America as much as America can be, you know. You know. So. I don't want to talk too much as your turn.
No, that's dope. Well, especially you know, just on location, because on top of that, you're in a whole new country. You're still saying location. So that's to have the foresight to think that way is, I mean, experience technically, but you know, to apply that to going abroad is I commend you for that.
Thank you, I appreciate that.
There you go. And it's not easy, yo. It's not even just like the going abroad. It's like the I guess like the mental aspect of moving, the culture aspect of moving, the financial aspect of moving, right? So like even we had the opportunity to go down to Virginia after graduating. I kind of got that from my brother because my brother after graduation he went to Taiwan. You know what I'm saying? But so that's kind of where I got more of the idea of like, oh, like move out of your city after you graduate. You know, like move out of your city, get somewhere different. And even people ask me like, oh my gosh, like how'd you move to Virginia? And you know, still it was obviously a difference. Like Norfolk, Virginia is completely different than New York. You know what I'm saying? Like we're talking about, you know, the greatest city in the world. Not the biggest city in the world, but like, you know, in terms of diversity, like the biggest city in the world, like every language spoken in New York. Go down to Queens, you hear every country, every language, like it's crazy. Then you move down to Norfolk, Virginia, and it's like this small city where literally everyone knows each other. Like you can't get around if you don't have a car. You know what I'm saying? Like it's a complete difference, you know. So it was a
melting pot, you know.
Not a big of a melting pot, right? So like we both did our internships down there the summer before we moved down. So we had an idea what we were getting ourselves into, similar like how you did your study abroad, right? So one, that shows the power of study abroad, right? Because it's like, yo, let me spend a few weeks here just to see, right? You don't want to just like, unless you got the balls like that, so just up and move without any prior experience, sure, you know. My brother did that. Like yes and no, because my brother, he did Taiwan, but my brother was studying abroad in college too. So he kind of had that world
they say
mentality.
The first six months of moving are the hardest. So, like I've learned that, you know. You learned that. I mean, I don't know like what you know how hard it was for you, but I think everybody learns that in their own like way, and that obviously transforms you into a completely different person. And I might just be going off on a 10 year, but
go.
But to everything he's saying, like it's such a, for those who have never left their city or moved out, it is the hardest thing to do. You know, you might think it's easy, or you might think like, or you're living with your parents, and you're like, oh, I can't wait to live out and pay rent and do all that. But that shit is not easy. It's not easy. It's hard, especially if you haven't like, if you're someone who lives without a lot of responsibility or anything. It's not a laughing matter. It's like it's tough, bro. You're gonna have to figure a lot of it by yourself. So.
No, I'm not gonna lie. Like specifically looking at you, Edom Karlsky. I remember looking at Karlsky. You were telling me about he's doing this full price scholarship. I didn't even know what a full price scholarship was before he talked to us about that. And that was even something I looked at before I applied to grad school. I'm like, what if I can do this instead? Like I was looking at all my options, and Karlsky specifically, I was thinking about. And you and him, I was like looking at the way you guys pivoted from New York to Virginia. I'm like, that's a huge deal. Like it's obviously like not a different country, but just that move alone is a completely new life. Like, I was looking at where you guys are doing fun jobs. You're like settled in. Financially, it was a big thing. You guys made sure that you secure jobs for this. I'm like, these are things I need to take into account. Like, if you guys can do it, of course I can. Like, I'm just gonna follow in your footsteps too. Like, and I was watching so many of my other friends. Even if you just move from Long Island to Manhattan, or Brooklyn or something, it's a whole new life.
Whole new life,
So I was kind of like taking notes from the people around me and like really trying to figure it out. Which is a big part of that whole thing. But just cost alone. I remember the first time we ever got into investing was me, you, and Karlsky. We were talking about it here actually. And Karlsky was like telling us all about the things that he was doing and how make sure you've got money on point. Like that's like the first thing you gotta do, so that when all these opportunities come, you can take advantage of them. And it's like invest your money, do something with it. Make sure it doesn't sit and lose out to inflation. And
Yeah.
me and you were making our documents and stuff, trying to figure out what to invest in. We got like, it's all good.
Keep on.
I remember we got into Tesla like $200 or something. That saved my whole life.
I probably wasn't friends with y'all back then.
No, this must have been like freshman. If it was Tesla, it was probably like.
It was 2016. It was end of
That was
2016.
freshman, sophomore. Yeah. That's when we like just met. We were probably we just got into NABA and
You
things like
probably
that.
mentioned it, and I was in Bethpage, so they wouldn't let me see accounts.
Yeah. Nah, that was like freshman, sophomore year. We still kind of talk about that because like Eden's like stock guru right now, right?
Yeah.
So like.
Remember about one share of Shopify, and I should have like a bajillion.
You put me on to Shopify.
I
think you told me about Shopify. I think back in high school, I think you told me about like, like this new app is gonna let you like buy like e-commerce online. And
everyone's gonna throw their fashion brand on there. Everyone's gonna throw their sneaker brand on there.
And in high school, I was like, this is cool, but like I didn't really know what I was doing, right?
Yeah.
And then now we're looking at Shopify, and it's like
$2,000 now or something like that.
Oh my goodness! But
I still look back to myself like, when the day they told me, hey, we're not coming back to school anymore, I would have everything in my bank into the market.
Sure.
But yeah, I mean, so many people have told me to like don't stress about this stuff. It's not about time, and it's not about the time you get in the market, it's the time you spend in the market.
Yeah.
So it's like I'm perfectly content with the gains that we made.
Exactly.
Investments at the time.
For sure.
Well,
You gotta start from somewhere. You know what I'm saying? You gotta
Yeah,
start from somewhere.
You
So.
always go, but as long as you remember, like,
It's never too late to start. That's the thing. It's like, don't too busy sit there regretting about why you didn't start back then. Like, start now. You know what I'm saying? Hurry up and start now. Like,
I appreciate that you started now in the future.
Exactly.
Yeah.
so
Really good conversations that we've had.
Yeah.
one thing I want to know, like, how has being in France and moving, traveling, all these responsibilities, like, how does that affect you coming back home now? Like just with your friends, or your even your simple interactions, how do you view things differently? Because I text Bensky every day, like, I'm like the stuff I used to do at home, or the stuff that I would just let slide, or now kind of getting to me, or now it's like, I'm seeing like, instead of just like walking away from it and just doing whatever, I'm seeing like 3 or 4 different like levels to this.
Yeah.
Like, so how's that?
Could you give me an example though? Like what you let slide, so I know specifically what you're talking about. I mean, only if you want to share that.
I'm trying to find one I can share.
Just to like relate the conversation a bit more, so I don't go off on a tangent.
All right. So with your parents, right? So just easiest example, but sometimes maybe they'll say or do something, and growing up, maybe you'll always listen to it, or like, this is right. But then you kind of like, after going out and experiencing things for yourself, you start to be like, all right, maybe this is not right. And on top of that, you can kind of see where they are coming from, or
It's funny because I was having this thought about specifically my mom, because you guys know my mom is an entrepreneur. She runs a business. She's a pharmacist, and stuff. She's always had that very stereotypical immigrant parents, like, I want my kids to follow in my footsteps. She really won't want us to be in like the medical field or be a pharmacy or something. And like, it was obviously not for me and stuff. And I still try to run stuff. But it's funny too, because after everything I learned, I'm like, wait, there's so many, like, I could still follow in your footsteps just by being an entrepreneur. It's like, growing up, I saw her run a business from her version of the ground up. Like, she obviously got it from old partners, but she had to start completely on her own too. Like, I watched her run a business from the ground up, and it's like I learned so much that has nothing to do with the medical field, but has helped me become better at business. My first job I got in Paris, a big part of the interview was like, we were really interested in the retail experience that you had at this pharmacy. It's like I'm following in her footsteps in such a different way. It's like the conversations I have with my parents are so much different now. I feel like you have such a tunnel vision when you're just like stuck at home or stuck in New York specifically. Like, there's only a certain amount of opportunities that you see. And when you leave, you're like, and even you hear it from different people. Like, I hear my friends, the way they talk about New York is so different the way that I talk about it, just because they're seeing it from a very outside perspective, and like makes you appreciate it so much more. It's like so many different ideas I have about what I could do there, and I think that's like the biggest thing is like getting out of the normal conversations that you have with your parents and kind of advancing a bit more. And obviously, it's not something that's exclusively available when you study abroad. It's like anytime you step out of your comfort zone. And so your parents obviously trust you with different things now, and it's like they see me live on my own. They see the way my sister has grown up and gotten her life and gotten her master's degree and bossed up and gotten such an amazing job and like is killing it. It's like such a different phase than we were like when we right when we came out of college. It's like I think they noticed that there's so many different ways to go about life. Not that they didn't know that before, but it's like getting your medical is secure. You're gonna make a lot of money. You're gonna live a normal life, and you're gonna have a secure life, and you'll be fine with stuff. You don't see that there's so many different ways you can go about life that are also secure. It's like 7 billion people are doing it in a different way than you. So obviously, there's more ways to do it.
Yeah,
you know what I'm talking about?
For sure. So, almost.
Did it stop recording?
Nah, we got a timer. We're good.
Okay.
So it's funny that you mentioned that, right? So kind of similar in terms of the podcast, right? So when I first told them that I was starting the podcast, it's like my parents were supportive, but you could tell they're like, what? Right? Like, you know, even me, I was kind of like, what am I doing? Right?
Yeah. I was surprised.
Yeah. I was surprised.
I guess you like to talk.
Yeah, for sure. But just like starting the podcast, you could tell like they were just still kind of unsure, like, what is the purpose of this? Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? Like, for what? Like, why a podcast? You're just talking, like, you're just interviewing people, right? And then, you know, once they start to see, like, all right, I'm living on my own, like, I'm not, you know, thank God, like, I'm not asking for money, I'm not struggling, you know what I'm saying? Like, they see how the podcast, in terms of my public speaking skills, it seems like it's an outlet for me to use my public speaking skills. It's an outlet for me to network. It's an outlet for me to do these different things, kind of like that entrepreneurship. And they start to see like, oh, okay, like this is a new, you know, like they see like I'm responsible with my stuff, right? So it's not the same as like, oh, I have to necessarily like coddle you as much as I did before, or I have to really like worry about you as much as you did before. Like, you know, seeing that you're able to handle those responsibilities, the relationship kind of changes a little bit, right? Because it's like, oh wow, like, you know, I'm an adult. Like you talk about all the time. Like you come home and it's like it's not the same high school coddling and like, you know, oh my baby, you can't do this, can't do that. It's like after they see that, like, you know, okay, you're able to live on your own, you're able to do this, that, and the third, it's a little bit more hands-off, you know, but then also you talk about it yourself, like,
I haven't changed. I'm the same person.
You're still,
maybe it's a I'll take over, but maybe it's a discredit, disservice, whatever, to the growth I've gone through. I know I've changed, but at the same time, like, yo, what you guys don't get is mentally, like, at the base, I am the same kid. I am the same, you know, person that was just here a year ago. The same person, like, nothing has changed. Only things, like,
responsibilities, I think is
and it's like, it's kind of like, it doesn't register to me sometimes when I tell my parents, hey, I'm going out. Like, before I'd have to give them 3 to 5 business days. Now it's like, I'm going out, I'm going to be out. And sure. And it's like, why is that, like, what? Like, you know, it's so weird. It's so weird.
It's crazy too, because again, this isn't exclusive to studying abroad. Just any situation where you step out of your comfort zone, you learn so much more about yourself, not in like a fake deep way, but
not for real,
but more just like you are no longer forced to put on whatever face you didn't even realize you were putting on when you're in the house or in New York or with your friends. Like you are completely from a blank slate. Especially specifically in my case, like I'm meeting people that have know nothing about me, have no pretense about me. We're speaking a new language. Like I am like as reset as possible. A blank slate, and from here it's like whatever I do is pretty much as organically me as possible. So it's really cool to like see the way I interact with people, the people I choose to interact with, the things I choose to do in my free time versus what I would do here, because like there's obviously not pressures, but just like responsibilities with your family or friends or things that have a legacy to them since you were a kid, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's like having a completely blank slate moment is really interesting to really learn about yourself.
I think
Your
right.
identity and everything.
Sorry.
No.
But I think a great result after that is like when you come back, you do start to cut off all the distractions,
Right?
Yeah. All the time wasting, and all that. So you start to realize, like, you just like you can pick your friends even better. Like you pick like, all right, out of the people I've known throughout my entire life, all right, this is so and so I'm gonna stop talking to, so and so I'm gonna stop hanging out with. Like we can be cool on Instagram and all that stuff, but like realistically, I'm not gonna sit here and make the time to come and hang out with you because I know it's not gonna be real fruitful or anything. Of course. Yeah, that's.
And it's not even that in like all your relationships are fruitful in some way. It's more just like we're in a different stage of life now. I feel like specifically us, like we've been pretty blessed to be really close with the people that we grew up with. Like every time we're home, either we chat about waking up. I look with friends that I've had since 7th grade or before. Like I feel like we've been pretty blessed with that. A lot of people have this stereotype where they're like, "Oh, you'll never see your friends after you go to college." Every time I come home, I see the same gang. Like everyone, as much as we're in our own doing our own thing, we still find that common ground to come and chill and hang, which is a nice thing to have because I feel like it's something that not a lot of people do.
For sure. So something I want to ask, right? So I heard this on Secret to Success podcast, right? Yeah. So they're saying is for the most part, there's no such thing as a good decision or a bad decision.
Yeah.
You make a decision and the energy that you put towards it makes it good or bad, right? And the example that he was giving was he was saying how post-college, him and his wife had an opportunity to move to Texas, where his wife actually had a job, but he wasn't working, right? Yeah. So he was like, he was kind of facing this pressure where it's like, kind of like a pride thing, like, oh, my wife is going to be going there. She has a job. I'm unemployed. She's going to be out there making money. I'm being in her house doing nothing all day, right? Yeah. So he was like, at the time, it was like at the time, he kind of just went with it. And he was saying he made sure that he made it as much of a positive decision, a positive opportunity, and it eventually flourished. It was like he could have easily gone to Texas and been negative, right? And he could have been complained the whole time. He could have been jealous that his wife is working and he's not. Yeah. And it could have been a horrible decision and it could have ended up badly, right? And I was like, dang, like that's really dope because sometimes, moving down to Virginia, there were times when I first moved down, I was homesick and I was like, yo, like, was I really supposed to move down here? I should have stayed in New York. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm closer to my family. I'm closer to home. Like I came down here, like, it was just different, and now I like to say I have more of an optimistic, positive mindset, how I approach things. So, I like to say like a lot of opportunities I've been blessed with, but I kind of create on my own because you have to put yourself out there, right? So said all that to say this, you move over there to France. At first you were excited to do it, but it's a completely different perspective when you're saying, I want to do this and you have a positive outlet to when you're actually in there, right? So how important would you say is the perspective and your mentality when you're there to make the most of your opportunity to make that good decision or bad decision?
Yeah, it's super important. I know exactly what you're talking about, the way you kind of described your move to Virginia. I don't know if you went through the same thing, we didn't get a chance to talk about it, but
I mean, it's a bit different because I came down with, we was already there, but I did have my days but
everyone told me it's like every immigrant or expatriate goes through this very cyclical moment where they're like enjoying everything, taking in all the new information, having fun, meeting new people, and then the progression hits, and then you're like, I want to go back home, blah blah blah. I'm like, it's not gonna happen to me. Like, like I'm gonna make the best of it. And obviously, in some ways, it does. Like, obviously, I miss my family and miss my friends and the things I do here. But I feel like I'm very much in line with exactly what you just said. Is that I try my best. And I feel like for the most part, I have a pretty net positive impact on the way I do things just because of the fact that I try to see the best in everything. For example, like my second job contract last year during my gap year, I really only went to the office a few times. I needed to be in Paris for it because I had to go to the office a few times, but most of it was remote. So I'm in like my little fake, it's like a studio, but it's got enough room, like my studio apartment, like working. It's like I'm not traveling, I'm not discovering anything. It's like we're in lockdown. It's like I'm stuck in my apartment. But like I was telling you before the podcast, we had a certain amount of time we could go do exercise outside and take advantage of your time outside. So I'm like, I'm gonna travel, right? So I would go on walks and like explore the city and get lost during that time that I was allowed outside and like really make the most of it. And like I have this city in the back of my head now, like I can go anywhere without a map.
Yeah, the GTA map.
Yeah, exactly. I got the GPS like showing me where to go, and so I would just pop my headphones in, listen to an audiobook, or listen to new songs that came out, or keep my headphones out and just get lost on a walk, find new food spots, find new spots that I wouldn't expect, new gardens, new parks and stuff like that. Really make the most of it. So that's like one example of a ton of them that I can cite, but I feel like that's one of the most impactful ones because I could easily sat in my apartment all day and not done anything and pouted the whole time. And not that like it's a negative thing. People went through COVID very different ways, but specifically for what I wanted to do. I just took the time to make the most of it. I couldn't travel, so I tried to travel in my neighborhood and in Paris and really make the most of it.
No, that's really, really important, right? Because like you said, like obviously, COVID impacted everybody differently, but like, you know, trying to have that net, like you said, that net positive outlet, you know what I'm saying? Exactly. Like, yo, what can I do in my power to make the best out of this situation?
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying? Like, what do I have control of? You know, and for us, it was a little bit, I kind of went against that. Like, how did, like, obviously we were in Virginia when the height of quarantine, but that's still US, right? It was different than New York. New York got impacted crazy. Yeah. Thank God Virginia wasn't hurt as much. But you're in a completely different country. Like you move over there and then like the pandemic hits, right? So like well, you were there for a little bit before the pandemic, right? Yeah. So
pandemic was like towards the end, or
so I was there from September to December 2019. Came home, went back in January, and from January to March is when.
Yeah. So still, you're in a completely different country while this is going on, right? So that makes it even that much more significant, right? Yeah. Because you're not just home where at least like I don't know, like
where in the day,
like I'm right here, like I take a 7-hour drive up to New York, like God forbid, like parents get sick, anything like that, right? Like it's right there. You're in a completely different country while this is all going on. Not only every state in the U.S. impacted differently, every country, impacted differently. Exactly. Yeah, like that. You said 1 to 3, you're allowed out 1 to 3 hours. Technically, we were allowed out whenever we wanted to. Like people just they just told us wear a mask. Yeah, in Virginia, they don't wear a mask. Like, they don't really enforce anything like that.
Nigeria, they beating people for leaving.
I heard about that. That's just crazy.
So you're experiencing COVID in Paris. So like, was that like at that time? It was like how was that like? A little bit more.
I'm gonna give you the timeline. So it was pretty scary at first, just the way it went down because no one knew what it was. It was scary. And it's funny because the company I was working for at the time, so I had a 6-month contract from January to June. 2020.
Okay.
And they're a huge company, like the most valuable company in France or something like that. And so they're very close to the government. They get all their information from the government pretty early. And like I get a call from my manager, and it just feels like a movie, right? It's like the weekend right before like the 22nd or something like that of March, when COVID hit everyone at the same time, right? And she's like, Raj, you can stay and you could work from home from your apartment. But I'm telling you, the country will have a very strict lockdown on Monday because they knew the information a little bit beforehand. If you want to end your contract and book your flight and leave, we completely understand. Like, you don't need to do any crazy paperwork or anything. Like, you should leave if you want to be with your family and stuff. And it just all hit at once. It's like I had to scramble to get a flight. Or it was on a Saturday. She called me, or Sunday. She's like, Monday the president's going to get on TV and announce that we're locking this place down. And no one's in or out or anything. Yeah. So I was like, oh shit. Yeah. I was like, all right. I booked my flight to it was a very expensive flight for what I wanted to do. It was like $800 or something. I'm like, all right, I have to eat this cost to be with my family during the scariest time of all time. And I booked the flight, and the day after he announced, all the flights went up to $10K or something like that. It was crazy. I got in super early, and first I was grateful to be at a company that like we got a lot of this. Like pretty much everyone in France knew.
Yeah.
Everyone, but no one knew how serious it would be, and like the company had to know because the government had to give them all the information to like shut down certain factories or certain production or certain places where they work with like leather or like things that they have to like not get contaminated and stuff. So we got some information like a day earlier or something like that. And yeah, it was pretty intense. And then I was home for a few months. So the company, they had a policy where they terminated all their short-term contracts so they could save all their long-term employees so they didn't have to fire anyone, which I completely understand. And so I had to find a new job, and that's when I started working for the video game studio. And I went back to France in August to December. And they had a pretty good summer. Their lockdown was really strict, so their summer was like pretty free of COVID. Well, free of COVID. Like,
Yeah.
it wasn't that bad. People were on vacation stuff. When I got back, I got to like see friends, meet up, go to their apartments and chill, and go out and have fun. But then like it got pretty bad again in like September, October, and that's when I was locked down only an hour to go outside and stuff like that. And that's when that phase kind of started. But now they're pretty good. They got their vaccinations on point. And it seems like there's very little COVID compared to before because they were kind of like in a special lockdown for like at least like 6, 7 to 8 months. They kind of hid it under the fact that they call it a curfew, but it was pretty much a lockdown because it was just their way of not stressing people out when all they did was stress them out. Like the lack of transparency.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was like a film from like the beginning of COVID, and I was trying to figure that out. But it was, I like, as decimating and terrible as it was, I tried to make the best out of it.
Yeah.
You know, like learn as much as I can, do the best I can at work, and make the most of it.
So that's crazy. Everyone experienced it differently.
Yeah.
Would you say you grew the most during that time?
It depends. It's like in specific ways, yeah. Especially things that like I realized like I like to do on my own too, because I was on my own for so much of it. I feel like it was a time to reflect and like really explore myself specifically and what I like to do and what I like to do in my free time without any stress of any outside factors. So yeah, I would definitely say in that sense, yeah, I grew a ton.
So I kind of want to follow up on that question, right? So from moving to France till now, what would you say is the most, like, what period would you say you had the most growth?
That's very difficult.
I'm trying to compare it to myself personally because like I said, I talk about it every day, and even like my sister now, because she's done this whole like out of home thing for since college started. But I've grown probably the most in the last 11 months ish, maybe 10ish. But I've done an incredible amount of growth. I'm still growing every day, so I don't know if that's the same for everybody. But I like hearing you the first 6 months of moving is the hardest. That's what like ties it in for me. Like in the first 6 months.
So I think I kind of agree. And even though I'm saying like the last 12 months or so, I don't attribute it specifically to COVID. That was just like a factor. I think the fact that I'm going back and forth from home a significant amount more, it's making me realize like my priorities in life and things I want to do. A big thing is like, so I had this other thought too, where I was thinking of like the idea of entrepreneurship and stuff. And I feel like a lot of people get stuck in this zone where they think entrepreneurship is just either starting an app or a startup that you're trying to get a VC funding and make $1 gajillion in your first like 6 months and cash out and sell to Google or something.
Yeah.
Right? That's not what entrepreneurship is. It's a facet of entrepreneurship. But, small businesses are entrepreneurship. Small online businesses are entrepreneurship. Small franchises are entrepreneurship. I feel like people look over that and how important entrepreneurship is as a skill. And it's funny because not even talking about the business side, it kind of made me prioritize things that my ideal situation is either to work like freelance or be a small, either retail or small online or small consulting type of entrepreneur in an industry that I'm passionate about. Literally because of the fact is like I don't ever, well, this is not the only reason, but a big reason is like I don't ever want to have to schedule or call out or beg to have time off to take like specifically to take a family member to the hospital or, or if there's an emergency. It's like I want to be able to make that decision on my own.
Yeah.
It's like as amazing as being in the workforce is, you have a stable income, you make a ton of money. There's nothing wrong with that. Like, I feel like another thing is people talk about entrepreneurship. They shit on like, can I curse on this? Or do you get?
It's still for the kids though.
And they like hate on people who choose a 9-to-5 job. It's like, there's nothing wrong with a 9-to-5 job. It's secure. It's a lifestyle. Your job isn't who you are. Like, it's a way to make an income. That's it. At a certain point, like, there's nothing wrong with that. The fact that, but the reason that I feel like I prioritize working on my own or for myself is like, I don't ever want to have to stress about being able to be there for my family or my close friends or like my immediate family or my distant family. In the case of an emergency, it's like you guys know I'm always taking care of my grandparents. It's such a big part of my life. It's like I don't ever want to have to be in a situation where I'm paying for time off to visit them at the hospital or drive them to the hospital or something like that. It's like such an important part of my life now, especially since being in France, I can't be there for them. So it's like, damn, when I am home, I want to be there for them. I feel like that's a big thing that I kind of figured out. And not even just my grandparents, just my family in general. My parents, like, see what my mom does it. Like, she is so averse to taking time off. She's very, very focused on like on her job. And even though she's younger, it's like she wants to be there. She wants to run it. She's very much committed. But like even just the fact that she could be on the phone and call and organize their doctor appointments and organize what they're doing at the hospital, organize what they're doing at home. That's such an important part of what I want to have in my life. I don't ever want to hide to be on the phone because of my work. Trying to get a doctor's appointment or a medicine or a call to find out what's going on with my family and stuff. That's such an important part of the reason I feel like entrepreneurship is really important. Because you can like have the work-life balance that you build for yourself. You know?
The reason I was we just had this conversation. Like we've been having like this conversation for the past like
many different ways.
We've been saying this like for the past few weeks, right? Like we were just in Puerto Rico, right? So like, you know, you're talking about your grandparents, we were just talking about more like a vacation aspect, right? Because we just did a voice trip, right? But like it was crazy. Like we're there with Alan, right? We were having fun, we were exploring, we were creating content, doing podcasts, doing photo shoots, doing all this. And I'm like, yo, there's no reason we can't be doing this whenever we want to. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
Obviously now the stage, you know, we still work 9 to 5s, right? And this is the stage that we are in life, right? You got to start somewhere, you got to build. Like, there's no problem with that. But I'm like, yo, like, you know, 10, 20, 30, 40 years from now, like, I don't want to be under that, the pressure. I have to call someone to ask if I want to go spend a week with my boys creating content in Bali. You know what I'm saying? I want to be able to go do that. Like, you know, if my parents need me, like, I want to be able to, like, I can go back and forth whenever I want to. You know what I'm saying? And like, it ties back down to like financial freedom. Just like, to me, the way that I've been saying in my head is like, I'm putting in all this work now as you know, 9 to 5 entrepreneur, podcast, doing all this, so I can buy my time in the future. You know what I'm saying? And to me, like, that is what entrepreneurship is.
I mean, we all talk about investing.
Living off investments. You've been saying that.
You know, like, you got a rainy day fund and the rest is sitting in the market. Like, it's all for the fact that, hey, at this age or whenever anything hits, I want my time. I want my time. I want my money. I want to be able to have control of your time, have control of your future to an extent. You know what I'm saying? So like that is the biggest part of entrepreneurship. And then to kind of like piggyback what you were saying also, you were saying how you're like, oh, people think of entrepreneurship as like a VC fund or like, you know, like doing all that, right? What's even more about entrepreneurship is also it's not even just the business part of entrepreneurship. It's also like the internal and the mindset that you need to build as an entrepreneur, right? Entrepreneurship is not so much about numbers, but what I've been learning is so much more about like internal growth and like how you need to develop yourself as an individual. You know, before you can even talk about starting a business and like doing all that, right? There's so much internal growth that you need to go through. And it's not easy at all because there's a lot of things that you have to really sit with yourself and be like, yo, I need to get rid of this habit and I need to start this habit. I need to, you know, if I want to, you know, if I want
this business to be successful, I need to develop these characteristics. I need to act like this so it can come into fruition.
Yeah, of course.
No, it's a lot of filtering out. It's a lot of hard conversations with yourself, with other people, with you know, to develop yourself so you can be in that mindset. Because once you have that mindset, then it's easier to the material things, the physical things to come into fruition.
Of course,
you know, the actual storefront. Like you can't be lazy and have you can't be a lazy person and have a pharmacy, you know, pharmacy. Like there's no, it's not gonna work. There's no actual thing like that. It's not possible. And then just even, you know, just keeping up with the world. I know you you're talking about like AI. You're learning to get into that, right? There's so much you have to learn, and you have to develop different skills and things you have to develop as yourself. If you want to be a successful entrepreneur, there's so many things you have to develop in yourself.
Exactly.
So it's just like an ever-growing process of mentally and internally, as well as, you know, the physical of, okay, I'm selling this for a certain amount and blah blah blah. You know, so it's crazy, yo. Life is crazy, you know, but it's fun because it's like when you look back and you see how much you changed and how much of a better person you become, it's a really good feeling. You know what I'm saying? So,
I have another question. So how have, especially, I guess you're not really done learning in terms of like the institutional sense, but how have you learned differently being on your own? So like, if you want an example, like, you know, I'm not a big reader. I do read. I have books I do want to read, and I will read, you know, if necessary. But to learn something, like reading doesn't necessarily stick unless I've seen like a video about it or heard people talk about it in podcasts. So like the way I learn has changed drastically, especially because of COVID, being at home and not really needing to look at a textbook like that. Everything being online, but
So I completely agree with you. I recently, so I used to try to force myself to read a lot, and as much as like I feel like it's always, you always find the books that you like and that you can read through, but you can't force yourself to sit through a book that you don't like. And I realized, and I made this thing where whenever I listen to an audiobook, I recently got into audiobooks. Audiobooks I listen to are nonfiction pretty much, almost exclusively, and stuff that I read are fiction. So I feel like that works for me, not like in a sense where like I'm trying to be as efficient as possible. It's just like I retain that information better as audio, and I retain fictional information better as like a physical book. I'm able to get more into the story rather than listening to stuff. I'm able to retain more information that's more like pragmatic or like you're trying to learn from. Videos and stuff, YouTube tutorials have been my life since like birth. I remember like I don't know how much we got into it before we started like really becoming friends. I mean, obviously we were close friends from 3rd grade to 6th grade, but we never like worked on stuff together. So you know, at elementary school, YouTube was my life. Like I was learning so much stuff. I was learning how to make video games. I was learning how to do basic code and HTML, like from 5th, 6th grade to 7th grade and stuff like that. And I feel like that stuff I lost in my life when I got really focused on traditional academia, like when we got hit with all those like teachers that said you need to focus on your PSATs, your SATs, you need to focus on your essays, you kind of lose the spirit of like learning after that. Not, again, that's a whole other conversation, but just
use any of that stuff since.
But but just to use it as context, like ever since I started to be on my own more and use more of my free time to go back into these places, because like I've found my love for learning things online, we found my love for learning things like in non-traditional, non-academic senses. A big thing I want to shout out to my school for, as annoying as my school is in France, they're great at the things that they do great, they're amazing at. The things that they do wrong, they really suck at. It's such a love-hate relationship with them. But the student body is really fun, and I'm really grateful for the friends I know, because I feel like I met like 5 people that are perfect for me, and the rest of them is like I hate it, everybody else. And it's cool because I learned so much from them, especially because one, the diverse backgrounds I've met in Paris are so like, obviously New York is filled with everyone from diverse backgrounds, but it's like the demographics of Paris is a little bit different than New York. They both are pretty similar in like culture and especially people our age, culture is pretty similar. Everyone's trying to get new ones. Everyone's trying to get like the same type of like media focused stuff and like general sentiments and ideas that they have, but their backgrounds are very different. So it's like one of my really close friends is from an island off the coast of Africa that I didn't even know about. I've learned so much through him and the stuff that he's doing and the stuff that he talks about. And we share ideas, and it's funny because when we were growing up, we were learning about all these philosophers and stuff that would like, and all we learned is that they get together and talk and like, what else do they do in their life? They just got together and talk and wrote books about what they talked about. It's like, oh, I get it now. It's like I'm sitting outside of my school or outside of like those like historic schools in France and talking to my friends. I'm like, holy shit, I'm learning so much just from these conversations. Like, yeah, I get it now. And it's even the more, what's the word? Like, so talking versus like the actual doing sounds like the word is losing it for some reason. But it's like the things that we work on together. One of my friends there.
Application,
yeah, I guess that's the word. Like versus the things that we talk about and then work on together. I see like the way they do things are different than the way I do things, and I work and I learn just from that, just watching them work on their computer or watching them in their house and stuff. I've learned so many different ways to cook, like outside of school sense. Like I've learned two of my really close friends that are in culinary art school.
Oh, shit, it's fast.
Yeah. And it's like, it's crazy too, because those are two people that left their country at the age of 18. It's like it's not that it's normal, but it's more promoted too. And I feel like I learned from people who've had these experiences just because they had to like grow up at a very young age. Like they entered at 18 to do their bachelor's in culinary arts at a completely different country. It's like something I would never expect anyone that I grew up with to do. Not in like a derogatory sense, but just like
you don't do
it's just like no one told us about that, right? No one told us that that's an option. You know, to follow your passion in that sense. They're just like, oh, like I feel like a lot of the opportunities are either sports related, or you become a doctor, or investment banker. It's like you're either insane in sports and you make it in a really cool way, or you make a ton of money and you make it in a really cool way.
For sure. So let's take a break here. Let's do the quote of the day, because we're having a really good conversation. So let's do the quote of the day so we can reset. What we got for us, We haven't done this in a little while. We didn't do any.
We covered a lot of stuff. I have a lot of good quotes.
Yeah, but we didn't do any with Alan. Those past 2 episodes, we didn't do any of him. So. For those listening in the audience, I hope you guys have been learning a lot, taking down some notes, and just enjoying the conversation.
I have nothing to teach, bro. I'm still learning as much as they are. I promise you.
Okay. All right.
This is my birthday right here.
Did you see that Uzi got into a fight with St. John?
I saw something like that.
He like pulled out a gun, or like a gun fell out of his mouth.
I saw something on Instagram.
Why is St. John from? Something will hurt you.
Yeah, I saw something like that on Instagram.
St. John's from Guyana too.
Yeah.
All right. I'll pick this one. So the quote is, sometimes you have to take a leap of faith first. The trust part comes later.
I think I've heard that before, but
you were there.
Yes.
You were there when I heard it. It was from a movie.
Okay. Can I ask for names?
Yeah.
Yeah,
it's not a real person. It's from a movie.
Yeah.
So sometimes you have to take a leap of faith first. The trust part comes later. Movie.
What type of movie was it? Was it like an inspirational film, or was it like
anime?
some random film that?
Not an anime. It was like a superhero movie. So.
DC or Marvel?
DC.
DC. Okay.
Movie came out in 2013.
2013?
Yeah.
2013. I think 2013.
DC movie in 2013. Batman? Something Dark Knight?
I was gonna say Dark Knight Rises came out in 2011, though, right?
It came out in like 20.
Because The Dark Knight came out in 2000.
It's not Batman. I'll tell you that.
It's not Batman.
Man of Steel?
Wonder Woman? Oh, it's Man of
Man of
Steel?
Steel?
Oh, okay.
Who's that? Superman?
It was no. I still want to answer that question. But it was the confessional scene. Superman went and made a confession to in a random church with a pastor, and the pastor said sometimes you have to take a leap of faith first. The trust part comes after. He was just had to go save the world from Zod. And not feeling it.
Heard you.
But yeah, you walked in the apartment. You were sitting watching a little bit while I was watching that scene. Yeah, so sometimes you gotta take a leap of faith first. The trust part comes after. To me, it's literally what we've all been talking about. When it comes to moving and getting out of your comfortable, cozy environment. So
you won't have all the answers. That's the crazy part. Like you kind of like with the good decision, bad decision, right? Like you don't know if it's going to be a good decision or bad decision until you actually do it, and it's the perspective and the energy you put into it. That's that trust after, you know what I'm saying? Like you just have to just go and be like, yo, whatever happens, net positive, right? I love that phrase. Like I just
net positive,
and just like
because you're gonna fall back.
Of course, right?
What you're trying to do is mostly positive. You'll know where you'll go. No matter where you go, it'll always be in a good direction.
There was a quote you gave to the energy one, but
no, yeah, I was gonna say there was a quote I saw. Again, not trying to be deep, but I feel like it applies. It's like if you can see the path ahead of you, like if you can map out and plan it out one to one, it's not your path. Like you didn't make this path. This is something that someone else did. It's like so you're trying to be the next LeBron. It's like then you're only going to be what LeBron was. You'll never be who you are going to be. It's like if you can see it in front of you, it's not your path.
That's crazy. That's crazy.
I saw that on Twitter somewhere or something. Yeah.
I like that.
It was like one of those like super deep ones that actually has some truth.
That's crazy. I love that.
Yeah.
Pretty cool. Right? Unless you have anything more to input.
Yeah. Do you usually? I don't mean to interrupt, but I remember I was watching the Ace Game episode that you guys did, and and this doesn't apply directly, but it's like a compliment to it. He was talking about how like when you're trying to achieve your goals, it's like you're going to the gym. It's like, okay, once you hop on this path, you just gotta be consistent. It doesn't matter what you do. You just have to do something. And as you keep doing things, paths will open. If you do nothing, you'll never have the opportunity to open more doors or anything. So you don't need to know the path. You just need to move forward in some way.
I always go small wins. Bensky said to me that one day, again, we went roller skating, like sometime in February, and I promise you it changed my life. He said, yo, Josh, try. I was like, because I tend to give up quick sometimes, it's a bad habit. So we're roller skating, and it took him probably like, the first 2 laps, he struggled, but then after a while he got it. He felt going, But and then I'm like, I don't do roller skating. I haven't roller skated since elementary school. Every time I went around, I came back huffing and puffing and sweating and like, yo, this is not I want to leave. Like, probably want to leave. But then, Bensky just said like, yo, just try, bro. Just try. And I don't know why, but that night it really clicked and it stuck with me. So since then, it's just been like, yo.
I don't remember the publication, but some publication did a cover story on Frank Ocean like a year or two ago. And like one of the first things he said in it, they asked him this question. They're like, where do you get your inspiration from? Because all your music is so deep and connects to people in so many ways and sounds so inspired and so like, these prophetic dreams and you go into the studio and it just happens on its own. And he was like, no. Like, this is a very much a paraphrase of what he said. He was like, no, I show up to the studio. That's all you have to do. You show up, you do something, and the inspiration will come. There's no such thing as like inspiration that hits you out of nowhere. That's very like, it happens, but it's not the way that you build a project, right? He's like, all I do is I show up. That's it. You just have to show up. You have to go into the studio, turn on the computer, and do something, and you will find inspiration. Like you have to find it. It won't find you. And I'm like, if Frank Ocean, the king of of tomboy, the king of the king of music that has such a deep connection with so many people in so many different ways. If that's the way he does it, it's like there's no way we can't do that. So it's like we don't have to be. There's obviously the prodigies of every type of industry or talent, but it's accessible to people who just try. Like I feel like it's something that is not instilled in certain ways, but people should take more advantage of. It's like just show up.
It's the small wins, yo. It's doing the small wins. So this is, I guess, this transition from quote of the day to the next topic, right? So whatever. But this is really applying. So God willing, in the fall, I'm gonna start school for project management, right?
Yeah.
So thank you. So I'll be in UVA. So I don't even know what the mascot is, but I think orange and blue is their color. So that's what we're repping now, right? Mixed, right?
Unfortunately.
But with project management, my thing is this, right? I still don't even know if I like project management. I've never done it before. Yeah. You know, I guess like, you know, with Kill T and the podcast, like it's project management experience, like it's a little bit. So that's kind of where I was like, you know what, if I'm gonna pursue something, a graduate degree corporately, it's gonna be something I want to do. Project management is something that I kind of have the skills because I've done it with the podcast and things like that, right? That's the school route, but in work, like I need actual work experience at work, right? So at work, I'm literally like within the past few weeks, I have been put into the more project management roles. Yeah. More specifically, my supervisor, we're starting a brand new project and we have our first meeting Thursday. And so essentially for the project, she was like, yo, you're gonna be the project facilitator. She was like, yo, I'm gonna be here if you need help, but like you're going to be leading it, right?
That's awesome.
And yo, I was nervous this whole week, yo. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, I'm like, yo, like I understand what the project is, but the project is 4 mini projects in total within it. I'm like, yo, I don't know what to do at all. And like, you asked me to be the facilitator, like, yo, like I really don't know. So like I've been reaching out. Thank goodness I have a pretty good support system. They've been giving me like documents to, like project documents to keep track and things like that. Long story short, Tuesday I met with my manager. I was like, with one of my supervisors. I was like, yo, like, this is the ideas that I kind of have. Like, am I on the right track? She was like, yeah, cool. So that was like Tuesday. Wednesday I met with her again, and then Thursday was the first meeting. And then Thursday morning I reached out to her one more time. I was like, okay, like I have everything set. Like, do you think like I'm good? And she's like, yo, like you're good. Yeah. Like everything was good. She was still giving me pointers and stuff. And then she's like, hey, like, remember, you don't have to do everything on your own. Like, your point is to be the facilitator. And if you need anything, like, I'm going to be here. But one thing, I guess, like, that whole process, like, this is something I guess I've been asking to do. But when it's finally here, I'm like, yo, I'm shook. Like, I'm shook. Like, I still don't know exactly how this project is supposed to go and things like that. So we had the first meeting, boom. And it was crazy. Like the meeting was only like 30 minutes, but it was crazy being on the side of actually facilitating it. Normally I'm on the side where someone asks a question, I'm silent, and it's the awkward silence. Yeah. Now I'm on the side.
Somebody asks questions.
Yeah, right. So now I'm on the side where I'm asking the questions. And mind you, I'm the youngest person in the meeting. I haven't even been here for 2 years. Everyone here is like, everyone here is the guru. I'm supposed to be telling them what to do for the project, right? Yeah. And like the entire meeting, I'm like, thinking this was behind it, like I'm virtual, right? Because no one can see me, thank God. Yeah. Like the entire meeting, I'm like, okay, like I'm low key, like I'm sweating, you know what I'm saying? Yeah, because it's like they're waiting for me to say the next step. They're waiting for me to facilitate, and I'm like, I'm always on the other side. But thank God that joint went well. But I kind of said all that to say this, right? One, completely new experience, so like I'm excited to see where it goes. Yeah. But then two, with the project management, everything is one step at a time. You know what I'm saying? It's an entire project split into 4, and even those 4 pieces are going to be split into probably like 5 steps each. Yeah. But it's not like, one thing that my supervisor kept saying, it's like, yo, it's not like you have to do the entire project today. It's not like you have to do it yourself. It's not like it all has to be done today. Yeah. All you have to do is just mark step by step by step. You know what I'm saying? Break it down to manageable steps, and you complete step 1. Yeah. After step 1, you complete step 2. After step 2, you do step 3. And all your job as a project manager is to make sure that we are on task and on time. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? And I keep thinking as it's the project is just one big gulp, like one big bite, like one big, like you guys all have to do it at once, you know? And it's like, no, like that's how you fail, honestly. If you think you have to do it all at one time, because there's gonna be too much going on. You know, it's just literally one at a time, one foot in front of each other, one step, whatever metaphor, analogy, like one foot in front of each other, one step at a time, one goal at a time, you know. And I guess that part, it sounds easy, but for me, I have a tendency of wanting to do it all at once, you know what I'm saying? And it's like, no, like breaking it down to steps and one at a time, just one at a time, one at a time. And then the project gets finished. And then that's how you see progress. You know what I'm saying? Because you complete step one, now you're like, that's when the momentum builds. You already completed this step, now it's on to the next step. So that's just something I've been learning. And it's like, it's a new experience, because it's like, I'm always on the other end of it. And now I'm actually the facilitator. So it's like, I don't know, it's crazy.
Same thing, you know?
Yeah.
Same thing, you gotta like fall before you walk.
Yeah, you know, so
in anything you do.
it's crazy, but life.
Yeah, I got two things I can relate to. I remember the episode, I forget his last name, you were interviewing
Richardson.
Yeah. His last name. He was talking about how like self-confidence is such a key part of achieving things and like that. It's like for us, it's like you have imposter syndrome on top of you spend so much time planning things, you never actually do it, but you have this amazing plan, but you never actually act upon it. It's like the scariest thing. But the baby steps thing I wanted to comment on. So like we were saying before the podcast, like, I chose to do my specialization for my second master's, the dual degree, in something that I've never done before, artificial intelligence. Just like, and what I'm doing now to prepare myself for that is I bought a book, right? I bought a book designed for kids. It's like how to code. It's in French. It's like how to code video games by the age of 10 in Python, right? So I'm like, this is the perfect place to start. Like, I'm just gonna start from the beginning, as if I'm a kid. And like, I've been going through the book. I'm like 100 pages now, and I'm like coding alongside, and it's like I'm learning all the fundamentals that I need to learn to prepare myself. And I just like take the ego down and take everything that I expect down and just start. And it's been such a great experience so far. It's obviously like I get 50 pages done and then I go a week getting nothing done. It's like that motivation that you're trying to do. It's like you get it all done at once and then you lose all your interest, not your interest, but your motivation. But so I've just been trying to like cut it a little bit every day. But it's like that type of mindset to just start from the beginning as if you're literally a toddler.
I like how you said you killed the ego. I really like that, because that's literally what you have to do. You compared it to something meant for kids, but you're not above getting that and taking that. That's like one thing I don't think a lot of people apply it in that way. Killing your ego to just be able to achieve something great.
Kill the ego, feed the soul. Shout out to Mind Your Business Pop-Up.
That's humbling. That's real humbling to be able to just, put yourself, it's almost like prostrating yourself in a way. Just like, at least your ego, just to, come learn like a child. So I really like that.
It's not even, I feel like a lot of people have these, me included, like I've always had these ideas of projects I want to fulfill and do. And it's like, I get so hooked on the end game and I never actually get through the process it takes to get there. Or I start it and I never get through the middle process. So it's like, I expect so much from something I realize, oh snap, I really need to start with the baby steps. It's like, that's all a part of your ego. It's not that you're overconfident. It's like, you just have to figure out how to bring yourself down to a level where you can actually work on these things, move towards it. You can't always expect the best or the most best.
From the beginning, for sure. Crazy, covered a lot, Anything else?
I love this.
This is a really dope conversation, really dope. Chop it up, bang.
Catch up too. It's been a while. Any questions?
No, I think. You got it all out. Anything? Any last topics? Anything you want to leave the people with? Last words of wisdom.
I said I have nothing to teach, bro. I have everything to learn. Like I feel like I could leave you with that. That's like a mindset that everyone should try to get into. Is listen, try to learn as much as you can. I try to do that as much as I can too. So.
Sure. One thing I love about this, what I love about this podcast talking is just learning from people's experiences, sharing your own experiences, meditating and looking back on your own experiences, talking to other people about their experiences. You know what I'm saying? Like, a lot of people are going through similar things that you're going through in different ways. You know what I'm saying? There are a bunch of ways to say the same thing, but it may be that one version that sticks with you. You know what I'm saying? Like, the just try. I feel like I've said that multiple ways before, but in that one instance, it stuck. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So it's like, and similar things with the baby stuff. Like, I've heard that a million times in my life, right? But like, it's in certain times in your life where it sticks more than others. You know what I'm saying? So that's why I just love conversing, good conversation. You know what I'm saying? So
if y'all get one thing from today, it's definitely sit with yourself. We always say this, but sit with yourself, and I'm gonna focus on learning. Right? So sit and figure out how you learn, how you grow, whatever works for you. So if you can't learn through school or whatever, you learn better by watching TV or Netflix or whatever. You got to figure out something to just make it work for you. I really like how Raj said, I like to read nonfiction. I listen to nonfiction, sorry, but I read fiction. I get that 100% because the books that I will forever keep picking up. I read Batman Begins when I was in 5th grade. Yeah. And I didn't know anything about that. But I was sitting in 5th grade reading that small, tiny print, 300-page book. And I've reread it probably 4 times to this day. And every time I read it, I come up with something different. So, I love fiction. I love anime. I love all that stuff. So to hear basically Raj kind of say the same way I'm learning in books, I never really got into audiobooks like that because it's like, it's a book still, but it's like, but I listen to podcasts and I learn a lot from podcasts. So to hear I personally, I read fiction any day of the week, but just to hear how I can still obtain, the knowledge from a book just through reading, it really didn't dawn on me until you just said that. So if you just gotta sit with yourself and figure out what works for learning. So.
Self-awareness. We learn about it. You talk about it a lot of times, but it's like it's the key to success, yo. Yeah. You need to know how you learn. You need to know your quirks, your personality, so you can put yourself in the best positions to succeed. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Like, we're all different. We talked about when we in Puerto Rico, like, the extrovert introvertness. You know what I'm saying? We had it on the podcast and off the podcast. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? Edom and I. One reason that we mesh and we work so well is because we're so different. Like, that is the reason. That's the reason we. Like, some people, like in our class, like in school, people would be like, they look at us and be like, "Oh, you guys like the same thing."
Same person.
And it's like, I'm like, no, like, even the reason we are friends is because we disagree on so much. You know what I'm saying? The reason that we get along is because, like, we have different perspectives, different personalities, different talents, different interests, like down to the like simple food, like down to everything. It's like, now, like, we actually don't agree on majority of things. Yeah. But that is why we work well, because it's like, I can specialize in this, you can specialize in that. We put it together. The other person, got it, type joint, So it's like, you have to be self-aware, because if I try and be like Edom and learn like him, it's not gonna happen. Not gonna work. If I try and force Edom, even though I try to sometimes, but if I try to force Edom to learn like me and be too extroverted, it's not gonna happen. That's not who he is. You know what I'm saying? It's not gonna happen. So it's like, learn, like, so you can learn from each other. Like, obviously, I can say that I taught Edom things, and he definitely taught me a lot, right? And like, that's where the mesh comes in, you know what I'm saying? But like, at the end of the day, you have to sit with yourself, be self-aware, put yourself in the best positions to succeed, and then opportunities are gonna open.
And you know what? I'm not even gonna say self-awareness anymore. It's a hard conversation at the end of the day. Like, self-awareness, like, it's cool and it's sweet, but I think it's just like, it's just sugarcoating having hard conversations with yourself, sitting down and just being really, really. You don't gotta be negative the entire time, because you should come up with a positive, like a better way to solve this solution. But self-awareness does come down to, like, if you're an asshole, bro, you have to, like, I'm this way, then you need to figure out how to change it. You need to be able to own your faults and either make them something positive or just build a like solution around it to help supplement for it.
call yourself out. Put
Yeah.
yourself in check. Like it's so important. Another thing too about the complementary differences, it's like my sister's my best friend, right? And everyone's always like, I wish I had I wish my sibling was so close to me like you. Like you guys are the best. You get along so well. You guys are the same. I'm like, we are not the same. Like, we are completely different people. Like you know, Rach, like we are not the same person at all. We don't do the same things. It's just like the differences are very important. That's why we always have so many new things to talk about and learn from each other. And like it's always a new conversation. It's crazy like that. Another thing too that I want to add, I feel like conversations like these are like highlight reel, and that everything looks great, positive. We're making the best out of it, but like for the viewers and for the people that you said between like 18 and 30, they're trying to figure it out. Like, give yourself time. Like, give yourself so much time.
Yeah, you're not gonna have the answers, yo.
As much, I feel like everyone's always telling me how like, oh, you did so much in 2 years and all that stuff. But it's like not even trying to like brag or anything, just like trying to put it into perspective. It's like, yeah, but at the same time, like there's the spurts of when you go through mental health crises and crises. This is not a vocabulary podcast. It's like there's been so much of that has characterized a lot of what I've been through, and identity crises, and like these things are normal. And like people who listen to podcasts or listen to people retelling the stories, they might get stuck on the fact that everything seems so great, and it's like a high reel, and oh, we're gonna make it the best and the positive, and how to make the best of this. It's like, take your time. It's super important to take your time. Like, there's no rush. Everything will always be there. A job will always be there in the future. Give yourself time. You'll find more ways to make money in the future. Whatever it is, even if it's not about your job or your future, your mental health, your identity, like take time to figure that out. Like you deserve it. You deserve to not force yourself to please other people, or not force yourself to go after something so much that it takes away from who you are as a person, stuff like that. Yeah, it's all part of the net positive.
So we're gonna end on that because there's one goof. We have one goof a day, and I forgot to put in the extra battery. Yeah. So that's my goof for today. We're running out of battery, so we're gonna end on that. Yo, Raj, thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you very so much. It's a blessing, for real.
Yo, for those listening, this is a really dope episode. I hope you listened to the end, and if not, you missed out. Make sure you're following us on all platforms. Everybody Eats Show on Instagram. Everybody Eats Show on Facebook. EBE_show on Twitter. YouTube. Everybody Eats Show. Make sure you're checking out our free wholesaling webinar to get yourselves involved into real estate. All that good stuff. Yo, we'll see you guys next time. Peace.
Thank you.